Hello YouTubers, this is the noobifier. This project is like no other, not only because of its scale and scope, but because of its funding model. The funding model is the reason that we have so many legacy skeletons in the closet, and it's often a source of drama within the media, but it's paying for the game. So if you're a fan, you probably already know, and you're mainly here because you want to play the game and have fun. So what I propose to do today is to have a fun look at the stretch goals, delivered and not yet delivered. This is not an attempt to remind CIG that there are unfinished goals, because we're still in development. It's more along the lines of reminiscing of the earlier times of early Kickstarter, Wingman's Hangar, when we were focused on what Star Citizen would become and not why is it taking so long. I'm going to take some time to quickly say for those of you who are new or who may not know that early on, as funding milestones were met, that extra money was earmarked towards new goals. The goal was a promise of a new feature. You could then say that the stretch goals were actually the birthplace of feature creep. So please sit back and relax as I walk you through from beginning to end, starting with the $2 million milestone, which I consider met and delivered. We do get regular updates on the project, and Squadron 42 development is well underway. Arena Commander was delivered. $2.5 million was the announcement of a new ship, the Anvil Gladiator. Check. I consider $3 million also to be met. We have regular community updates on Spectrum, and the scope of Squadron 42 grew to 35 missions and the PU grew to 40 systems. Before we continue, I'm going to provide a blanket statement about the increasing number of missions in Squadron and the growing numbers of planets and systems in the universe. Back then, everyone thought Star Citizen would have a hard launch date and that it would just be declared finish. This way of thinking has since been generally accepted as impractical, and we now consider the idea of a soft launch, where things would continue to be added for years. So the target number of systems, despite growing to 100, is just seen as an eventual target. Moving on, between 3 and 4 million, there were individual increments, with each adding a new solar system to the PU. 3.25 million was the MISC Starfarer and the future fuel mechanics, 50%. 3.5 million was boarding, which we can do, plus cockpit decorations, which are not really a thing and it's not really a priority. 3.75 released the modular Retaliator bomber, 50% check. 4 million had a listing for professional level mod tools, which brought up the idea of private servers and PvP sliders and all that other stuff. This one's actually harder to imagine ever becoming realized without damaging the core game. So please comment your comments in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts on this one. 4 million expanded to 45 playable missions for Squadron and 50 solar systems in the PU. 4.5 boosted that to 60, and the cruiser class ship was added to the game. Early backers would also get a hangar repair bot plus 500 extra UEC, which no longer seems significant. This is where we also got HOTAS, MFD, and TrackIR support. The Icarus was added along with the M50. There was a reference for a Kurtak alien race. 5 million was where the feature creep really started to grow. Melee combat, or melee, or whatever, however you want to say it. Heavy weapons, fully realized zero-G simulation, and EVA combat. Squadron 42 would have real actors and real motion capture. Squadron 42 was also now 50 missions, and the PU grew to 70 systems. We do not yet have increased ship customization, alien bases, the tablet companion app, and dare I say that although Chris was doing a good job with monthly town halls and QAs, he's fallen a little bit off the wagon lately into a dark pit of seclusion, posting only when Spectrum is ablaze. So, I am a big proponent of the CEO of a crowdfunded project being more active in the community. We need more Chris Roberts. 5.5 million was even more Squadron, the Bengal Carrier, and what was called the Record Breaker skin, plus an extra 1,000 UEC for the backers. 6 million we topped out at 100 star systems for launch, the player-usable Bengal Carrier. Squadron would get a professional score. Early backers were said to get a mission disc for Squadron, hopefully that is not a CD-ROM. At 9 million, backers get a Class 2 spacesuit attached permanently to their account. At 10 million, CIG bought their own mocap studio. At 11 million, the weekly show Wingman Hangar moved to its own pro studio. At 12 million, CIG built their own recording studio facility, and apparently the Hangar module would eventually get Oculus Rift support. I'm not holding my breath on that one because they're not even sold anymore now that they've been discontinued. At 13 million, they added the frigate as a class of ship and promised that cap ship captains would have a functional command and control center to both micro their ship and coordinate many ships in a larger fleet. 14 million added the idea of logging out by going to bed, plus they would produce a feature-length film called Behind the Scenes of Star Citizen. Earth would have a 4th landing zone when it was finally released. 15 million saw the escort carrier added to the list, and early backers would get a guidebook to help with overclocking components and customizing their ships. The goal for 16 million was Arena Commander and you got a free pistol. 17 million was a free-to-use engine modifier component, plus they added the battle cruiser as a class within the fleet. Anyone who backed before 18 million was given access to an exclusive special star system, no joke. 19 million promised a PDF manual for each ship in the fleet by the time that the game launched. We would also have a new series called Ship Museum, plus they announced plans to have some space stations set as player controllable. 20 mil announced ground combat on foot, 21 million announced rich salvage gameplay, and lootable unique items scattered around like you would see in a regular MMO. At 22 million, CIG bought a face capture rig with plans to take it from place to place, scanning people to be added to the game. 23 million, the Xi'an Scout was unlocked, along with the lore associated with APOA. 24 million gave us planets with public planetary transportation, which is totally achieved, and in the future, we are still planned to get interplanetary shuttles as well. 25 million expanded to multi-zone servers for testing. 26 million promised deeper immersion when commanding a cap ship to include damage control and fire suppression teams, repair detail, and the ability to close off sections to counter boarding patrols. 27 million unlocked the BMM in November of 2013. 28 million unlocked the Mustang series of ships. 29 million boosted Squadron 42's game quality target even higher. 30 mil released the 890 Jump. 31 released the RSI Orion. 32 released the Surveyor by AEGIS, which based on its description sounds a lot like the Anvil Carrack, but then 33 released the Anvil Carrack. So I think we need to start spamming Gib AEGIS Surveyor in Twitch chat on Friday. 34 was the Hull C, 35 was the Drake Herald, 36 was the Tamsa system on the edge of Banyu space, 37 was the Tanga system, and 38 was the Kano system, which was said to be similar to Sol with an Earth-like planet. Oh my god. 39 was the UDS 2943-01-22 system. Why, CIG, would you do this? 40 was the Cabal system and the Ortani system. 41 was actually a big one. This was the creation of a Tiger team that would research procedural generation. I would consider that money very well spent, as now it's a cornerstone of Star Citizen. 42 million boosted the effort in building a thick lore within the Galactopedia, a special module for the Mobiglass, and a fancy white towel for your hangar. I'm not making this stuff up, plus they also announced the Gladius Light Fighter. 43 million was the Orc Armor, the Omni-Roll Combat, which is the standard infantry issue. 44 million promised stellar cartography. 45 million launched some lore. 46 million promised deeper scanning gameplay. 47 million promised deeper gameplay for overclocking and tuning ship components. 48 million published a fantastic promo video for the Retaliator. 49 million gave us space plants as a piece of hangar flare. 50 million was where the big push was to create languages from scratch. 51 million was where the ARC map was promised. 52 million was the BB-12 spacesuit for operating EVA for both mining and salvage. 53 million launched some more lore. 54 million launched the idea of exploiting deeper subsumption for our NPCs. 55 million launched bigger ballistic Gatling guns. 56 million launched better cooling components. 57 launched the Mist Endeavor with all of its modules. At 58 million, everyone got an extra 10,000 UEC. 59 million was the Anvil Crucible repair platform, plus the announcement of deep repair gameplay. 60 million was the modular Vanguard series of ships. 61 was the Asperia Prowler. 62 was the modular Genesis Starliner and the announcement of VIP and passenger transport gameplay. 63 was the Reliant series of ships. And you know that they're starting to run out of ideas at this point because at 64 million, they added pets. And they ended finally at 65 million with the promise of deep ship modularity. Obviously, the funding kept going from year to year despite stopping the stretch goals. Many of the items have already been added. Some promises seem impossible now that the game has evolved in scope and direction. I do have the original page linked up for you right now, and I would ask that you take the time to link this video if you thought it was fun and interesting to your friends or orc mates. We've come so far, but we still have a long way to go. Please stick around because I'm always going to try to work to come up with fun topics for you. Fly safe and I'll see you in the verse.